Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a second to say thank you again for helping me deal with my technology issues. I know we don't have access to all of the resources that we used to because of COVID-19, but we make do with what we have. So thanks for hanging out and sticking around. So before we left for break, we were talking about A Hanging by George Orwell, and we had gone through and we had really basically rehashed the story. We had paraphrased it. We had gone through and said, first this happened, then this, next, and finally, and all in our own words. So we had gone over the chronology essentially. Remember that word. uh, so the next thing that we were going to talk about when we came back was some of those really important key moments of the story, and we kind of brainstormed a few of those just real quick. And the one that we thought we should start with was the dog, right? And so, what did we learn about this dog? What did this dog do that none of the other characters in the story actually did? Well, what did he do? Yes, that is correct. He recognized the prisoner, right? He could have picked any of the guards to run up to, but he ran up to the prisoner, right? And why is that so important? Yeah, the dog saw him as a person, just like like any other person there. Where everybody was trying to pretend, all the guards were trying to pretend that the man wasn't a man and that they weren't about to bring this man to his death. The dog was like, "No, you're a dude, just like all the rest of you are dudes," right? So that's a key moment because it really starts to be where people around the prisoner notice that, hey, like, you're a person too, and we're taking you to the gallows. And remember what are gallows? Yes, exactly, where the rope is strung around. So the place where he's executed. So something that I also wanted to, before we move on, kind of note is that is article usage. So something I've been seeing in your papers and sometimes when we're speaking in class is that we're having a little bit of trouble with our articles. And I know we touched on this before, just briefly, so I wanted to go over it again. Sorry, I can't speak and write at the same time sometimes. So, articles. There are two articles in the English language, the and a or an. And really, what articles do is they help us to understand what kind of noun we're talking about. So, if you remember, nouns are person, place, thing, or, yes, idea, right? So, love could be, it's an idea, we can't touch it, right? But it is definitely a noun. Love is great. Love is wonderful, right? It takes the place of the noun in the sentence, right? And so, what articles do for nouns is they really help us understand what particular noun we are talking about. So, if we're talking about the story, hanging, then we would be referring to the dog in the story. We know what specific dog we're talking about, and we know what specific story we're talking about. So, the dog, for instance, it refers to a specific noun, right? A, on the other hand, doesn't quite do the same thing. A is almost like another way of saying one, right? So if you said a dog or a dog, you're referring to one dog and usually not a specific dog, right? So if we were talking about the moment in the story when a dog ran up to the man, we don't know what dog it is at that point initially. It was just a dog. It could have been black, it could have been white, it could have been yellow. We don't know what the significance of it is. It's just a dog, right? Like most of the time, if we wanted to adopt a pet, perhaps a dog or a cat, we don't have any particular one in mind, right? We haven't picked out that one yet. And in that case, that is when you would use a or an as your article. So we could adopt a dog. We could adopt an alligator, right? Hopefully we wouldn't take the alligator home, but we could still adopt an alligator. And so you notice for consonant sounds, we use a, and for vowel sounds, we use an, right? So a and an are really like another way of saying one, but more grammatically appropriate because it's an article and one is not an article. It just means one in general. We don't know which one in specific. Now, a or an will always refer to singular nouns, right? Dog, alligator, cat, person, story, plane. Always singular, right? So singular, non-specific nouns. The refers to a specific noun, but the specific noun can be either singular or plural. So, for instance, if there were a group of dogs in the story that, maybe a little pack came running up to the guy and started like all, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 or I don't know, 12, however many dogs are in a pack, right? So, if all of these dogs were to come up to the man, we'd say the dogs, right? So it'd be a specific group of dogs, right? So it's a specific noun and it can be singular or plural. It doesn't matter what its function is. What is so important about the word the, is that it means that we're referring to something specific, right? A is singular and non-specific. We have a singular, or sorry, we have a plural non-specific as well, and it's just the plural of the noun itself. It doesn't have any articles in front of it. And this, I think, is where we get a little bit confused about, when it's plural, when it's singular, which article do we use, and it really has nothing to do very much with whether it's singular or plural, the noun. It more has to do with, do we know which object, do we know which noun we're talking about, right? So dogs, it's plural, right? There's more than one dog, but we don't know which dogs we're talking about. So if we say dogs are great, we don't know which dogs we're talking about. We're talking about kind of all dogs, right? If we say dogs are better than cats, well, first of all, I would disagree, but some of you might not. And we also wouldn't use an article with either of those because we don't know what dogs or what cats we're talking about. Does that make sense? Does that kind of help clarify the difference then between when you use the, when you use a or an, and when you don't use any articles? Okay, good. Oops. Well, let me know if you have any questions about that. We're going to go ahead and take another break, and I'll meet you back here, well, when we're done with